Your host, Christopher Balkrin, folks. This one's going to be a bit interesting because I seem to have kicked a hornet's nest on Instagram, and I am looking forward to explaining my post recently. If you follow me on Instagram, you know what you saw. And that is my post about Elon Musk attending the Trump rally in Butler, PA. So if you haven't already subscribed to me on Instagram, if you haven't, my name there is at Open Minds Pod. After my podcast, Open Minds with Christopher Balkrin. If you haven't already subscribed to that as well, and shameless plug, definitely hit up my blog, Curious Mondays, openminds.substack.com. So, folks, Elon Musk attended the latest Trump rally in Butler, PA, and I made a video about that. I made a video on YouTube and I made a video on Instagram, just a short reel. And maybe I didn't explain myself very well in that Instagram because the comments got pretty heated, and I really enjoyed it because I thought to myself, I'm so glad that people are in a way showing to me some of their own perspectives and the blind spots that we have when it comes to those perspectives as well. So Elon Musk is a champion of free speech. We all know that. Elon Musk, took over Twitter, and Twitter had this like very left-leaning bias. And that's not my opinion. That's the opinion of many whose accounts were banned or suspended under like false pretenses, etc. And Elon Musk saw this and put up billions of dollars to change that because he saw, Twitter as this kind of public square, and he saw it was being overrun by people who were, left leaning. And it's not that they're left leaning, but it was that they were allowing their politics in determining who gets a say in the public square, so suspending Jordan Peterson, I believe, suspending or banning Donald Trump, and just doing that over and over for very prominent perspectives, but also for people who, even moderates, were like, what's going on here? This is getting a bit weird. So the fact that Elon Musk did that, took over Twitter, and some would argue it's a much more balanced place. Others, on the extreme end, say it's more right wing, etc. But that said, Elon has never kind of shied away from tough conversations. But one thing that I found weird was, Elon, it's one thing to support a politician, right? Like any one of us can support any politician. But it's a bit odd that Elon went so far as not only to support Donald Trump, but to attend his rallies and kind of really double down on this doom and gloom kind of thoughts and phrasing that we see from very very indoctrinated left and right politicians, right? So like on the left you have Kamala Harris and others saying Donald Trump is attacking our democracy and we're here to save it. On the other side, you see Donald Trump saying the exact same thing about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and how they're taking away your rights, et cetera, et cetera. Now, for what I would consider Musk to be a proponent of free speech, I thought for sure he would kind of exactly. Someone in the comments says he's excessively pro-Trump. And that was my point. He's so excessively pro-Trump that it's a bit odd because for someone who's about free speech, I thought for sure he'd be a little bit more critical of Donald Trump because Trump isn't exactly he isn't exactly perfect either. But what I saw instead was Elon Musk at the Butler, PA rally, not only wearing a MAGA hat, jumping up and down in a very odd way, but also he professed his desire not only for Trump to be president, but his desire for people to register and vote, and not openly saying this, but vote Republican. And you can see all of this on his speech in Butler, PA. But he's telling people, register to vote. There's only 2 days left in these two states. You have to register. Drag people to register, and tells them to go vote. And again, I found that to be like just a very obvious political push from Elon Musk. Now, I understand that that's his right and he has a right to do that. But for someone who's so focused on freedom of the individual, I found that a bit odd because ultimately it's the individual that determines whether or not um, they choose to vote or not. And I thought for sure if Elon Musk was so concerned about freedoms, he would hold an independent presser and say, listen, I don't care if you're left, I don't care if you're right. I want every American to go out and vote. And I understand that in my platform as, Tesla CEO, SpaceX CEO, I have a platform here and I really want to use my voice to get that message out. But no, Elon Musk instead goes to a MAGA rally and really hammers home to Republicans to register and get out the vote. Again, I found that very odd for someone who's so focused on getting on freedoms of the individual. At the end of the day, it's the electorate that determines the election, but also it's the electorate that determines whether or not they have confidence to go out and vote, and that their vote would actually make a difference. But I'm going to pause there. I'm going to read some comments. Let me know what you think about Elon Musk attending the Trump rally in Butler, PA. Vivian Newman says, "Will he lose his diehard?" Interesting. Um, Jamie says, nice name, Jamie. We talking about Elon Musk and his dark MAGA vibe? He's crazy. Thanks so much for those comments, folks. Remember on TikTok, if you haven't already, subscribe to me at Christopher Balkrin. I'm trying to hit 1,000 people on TikTok so that I can do this all behind my computer. And I think that this is a very interesting conversation. Going to those on Instagram, Dadzilla says, I think you're doubling down. I was actually just reading the comments of your post as you went live. Thanks, doubling down. I think that sorry, thanks, Dadzilla. My apologies. Read through the comments. Let me know what you think. Again, my perspective is very much if you're for free speech, which I do believe Elon Musk is for. I think he's a big proponent of that. It's odd to me to see someone who's so big on freedoms to be attending like a Republican rally and then also saying in that rally, this is the last election. If you don't vote, this is the last election. Again, very doom and gloom. I don't know. It just doesn't come across as authentically genuine of a pursuit of freedom when you have a MAGA hat and you are saying everyone go out and vote. You're telling people to vote in a very specific way without saying it. And I don't think that's genuine. Again, what I think would have been genuine would be a true proponent of freedom. You've got the money, you can do an independent, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy. He did this way back in the day when he did this whole campaign, Vote or Die. I don't know how successful that was, but it was about getting the youth vote out. And, Musk isn't about that, right? He's about getting Republicans out to vote. And one thing I noticed, and Dadzilla, you can check this out in the comment section on my Instagram. If you haven't already, subscribe to my Instagram to see the comments for yourself. But I noticed that it seems like I kicked this hornet's nest with conservatives on this issue. And it seemed to be to me very odd that people were getting so upset that I was calling Elon Musk out because I think they thought that I was somehow supporting I was saying something against him supporting Donald Trump. But I'm not. Again, that's his right. That's what he has his right to do. But he can't go out saying that he's for free speech when he's wearing a MAGA hat telling Republicans to go vote. I just find that a very odd thing to do and say. But I'm going to pause. I see some comments there. Ziang, nice to see you back here. I love that. Nice to see you as well. It's been a while. Just going through the comments here. Jay Ramesh. Hey, Jay Ramesh. He says, Jay Ramesh, you've been a great supporter of the podcast. Thanks for that. I did get your message, and I am going to reply to it. I actually think that deserves a whole other live stream. So thank you for so much for sending that along. That was actually on my live stream a few days ago on civil unions and marriage equality, which I actually will do a full live stream on. Jay Ramesh says, I disagree. It is possible to endorse a candidate as a public figure and stay true to the mission. Okay, so let's play this out a little bit, Jay Ramesh. Jay Ramesh says it's possible to endorse the candidate as a public figure and stay true to the mission of freedom. Okay, so I'm gonna ask this in true like pursuit of curiosity and honesty and all that, but like if you're supporting a candidate, do you think that it's wrong to go on that candidate's platform and say, I'm here to encourage people to vote, which is one thing, right? That's one thing. And it's one thing to do that, but then to also button that same address by saying, if you don't vote, this will be the last election. We have to remember, like the rhetoric that Elon Musk used during his speech was very similar, again, to the doom and gloom approach that we've heard from Republicans. So if that's your candidate and that's the rhetoric you support, great. That is your right, your freedom, etc. But I don't think you can be still true to the mission of freedom if you're going to look at the election through that lens, because that lens is laced with political bias. That's laced with like Republican, speak. He could not do that same speech at a Kamala Harris rally. And to me, if he did the exact same speech at a Kamala Harris rally as well as at a Trump rally, I think that would lend credence to him staying true to the mission to say, I don't care if you're right. I don't care if you're left. I've noticed in the United States, voter registration, he can put up a stat. Those over 18 are X amount millions in the country. Yet we have lacking voter registration. I understand how important this election is. I don't care how you vote. I know how I'm voting. I'm voting for Donald Trump. That's my personal decision. That's how I'm voting. But I'm here to encourage all of you, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, to go out, register, and vote. Period. Full stop, etc. That to me would be like, oh, I'm supporting freedom. I'm going to pause there. I see some comments here. Dadzilla, sorry, there's a couple. Dadzilla on Instagram says, please don't misunderstand my tone. It's not hostile. Didn't take that tone, Dadzilla, at all. But I feel like you didn't understand who your base was. Interesting. That's an interesting take, Dadzilla. Dadzilla says, why does he need to be unbiased in promoting voter registration? You're right, Dadzilla. That's a good question. I think that the reason he needs to be unbiased in promoting voter registration is because he's shifting. And, Elon Musk is very good at this. He shifts, he takes an issue like voter ID, but he knows what he's saying. Remember, like at the rally, he talks specifically about, I think this crowd is good. Everyone's registered to go. But in 2 days, Alabama and Georgia, I think it was, voter registration shuts down and we need you to register to vote. Like he knows what he's doing. He's playing to maybe young Republicans who haven't registered to vote in those states. And I think it's interesting that he didn't say register to vote for Donald Trump. Like he was very calculated in not saying that. Because if he did, that would just be like over the top bias. But I think promoting voter registration should be unbiased. That should not happen at only a MAGA event with Donald Trump. That should happen regardless. But he was very specific in choosing a MAGA rally with Donald Trump to his base at Butler, PA. He even said, look, you don't have to believe anything that I'm saying. Look at his speech. He said, we have a president who was shot and came back, and we have another president who can't make it up the stairs. He knows what he's doing. He's firing shots, pun intended, against the Democrats, which is fine. It's his right. I just don't like that he's blending that with being in this place of like freedom. And so anyways, I'll pause there because I see more comments. 24 messages on TikTok. Folks, Please, please, please subscribe to me on TikTok at Christopher Balgren, my full name. I would really appreciate that. I'm just going to read through some of the comments here. So some of the comments are filtered due to protecting the community's experience. Folks, just remember, let's keep all our comments as respectful as possible. Xiang, nice to see you. Let's see what folks are saying here. Um, let's see. I like how people I love both the good comments and the bad comments, folks. It's all good. It's all gravy. Okay, let's see what we're saying. Xiang says it's also simply strange. After buying Twitter, he's been censoring a lot of things. Folks, what do you think about that? Do you think that Elon Musk is censoring a lot of things since buying Twitter? Let me know what you think. I remember the Elon Jet tweet Twitter account that followed Elon Musk's jet around and looked at all the CO2 emissions. I think he suspended that for a while, but I think that account is back. So, but anyways, let me know what you think about Elon owning Twitter and anything said. Polo says perfectly said. Okay, thanks, Polo. I didn't think I perfectly said that, but thank you. Nixon says, "Are you a mindset coach?" No, I wish I were. That seems kind of cool. Nixon says Trump 2024. Go. Kev's guide says right on. Um, Let's see. Xiang says, "Could I ask why you support Donald Trump?" So, Xiang, I'm Canadian. It's not like my vote matters, anyways. But in full honesty, yeah, if I were an American, I would be voting for Donald Trump. I would not be voting for Kamala Harris. And the reason why is because, listen, they're both not exactly the greatest. And I think most people know that. But at the end of the day, I think about a presidential candidate who, at least, you kind of know more about where he stands. I've said this before with the Democrats, you just don't know. Um, when it comes to support for the environment, you know, uh, Joe Biden authorized Project Willow, the largest domestic oil production in the history of the United States. $20 billion to Israel under Biden. A lot of things that people would consider Trump policies, you're seeing that from the Democrats. And so that's the reason I would vote for Trump, because at the very least, you know where he stands. And at the very least, he is trying some innovative policy ideas. I don't think that they're always hitting the mark, but at least I appreciate the attempt. The Abraham Accords didn't hit the mark, and I don't think that you're ever going to get 22 Middle Eastern countries on board with agreeing with Israel's right to exist. But that said, it's an approach, and it's something that Trump at least puts forward. And again, I don't agree with everything, but out of him and Kamala, I would agree more with his policies than Kamala's. Lauren says, "I'm from the UK and America's politics totally baffles me." You're not alone. Jamal says, "Do you have a TikTok?" Yeah, Jamal, come on, you're on it at Christopher Falkren. Radiohead is mid. Are you crazy? That album In Rainbows is amazing. Definitely, if you haven't listened to it, listen to it. Jigsaw's a great track. Also, check out I think they did their whole like YouTube live stream of the whole album back in like 2008. Siang says your points are very valid. I wonder about a few points. Could I DM you on Insta? Of course you can. If you haven't already, follow me on Insta at Open Minds Pod, OpenMindsPod. Someone says no, not Trump. Yeah, I hear you. Kev's guide says if the Trump doesn't get in, it's all over Red Rover. Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Kev's guide. Polo says, doesn't character matter? Character definitely does matter, Polo. But I think when it comes to this election, we have to be very cognizant of the character that we also don't know, and that is in Kamala Harris. We don't know enough, and I think her unwillingness to be interviewed, to be challenged, to be debated respectfully. I've seen a lot of her interviews, and they are one-sided, and they are not fair many times. And I do agree many times that she isn't given the same criticism as Trump, but that's no unique nature to Kamala Harris. You know, there has not been an interviewer who has criticized Barack Obama ever. Like, I mean, I think near the end of his term, 60 Minutes did a great job on calling him out on his Middle Eastern middle politics on policies in the Middle East. Um, but most journalists do not say bad things about Obama, and that I found so odd. Um, there were so many policies that Obama did that just were terrible, and I think most liberals and, like, left-wing activists would be repulsed by Obama's policies, and yet, you just don't see that. You don't see that level of critique for Obama, and, it's so again, all that to say, Kamala's not unique in that way at all. Um, I'm just seeing some of the comments here. Um Mark G says, "Hey, Mark, nice to see you back. Americans say voter ID is racist. Canada requires it. So are we racist for that?" Mark, I'll give you a second, but I've always thought the exact same thing. Like, I don't understand. Here in Canada, you have to get voter ID to like go in any election, municipal, provincial, federal. It's just the thing. When I moved downtown, I had to walk not only with my ID, I had to walk with, like, the latest bill that was sent to my house because my address on my ID hadn't changed over, and it was just normal. And they go through the list, they look at you, they look at your address, and they're like, "Yep, that's all good." But in the States, it's a big deal, and I'm so curious as to why that is. I'll never truly understand, but again, maybe I am alone on that because it's so rare to see that, and so many other countries don't have that. Um, Kev's guide says the free world will be gone. What do you guys think about that? Jay Ramesh says, "What is your view of January 6th as a Canadian?" Um, that's a good question, Jay Ramesh. My view of January 6th was, how can I put this? It was a culmination of the frustration that I think a lot of Americans were having at the system. You remember Donald Trump was elected in 2016 because so many Americans didn't see themselves in the politics of the day, right? Like, not only like working class white people, but just many people in general who thought that Washington was filled with the elites. Like, they saw in Trump what they never saw in any candidate before. Remember, he came out and said he appealed to the common man and woman who couldn't afford things, etc. And he really rallied behind them, basically stole the base of the Democrats in many ways when you think about it. And so that same base is very skeptical about Washington politics and how things are conducted. And so when they saw in 2020 an election where it was Trump versus Joe Biden, and it's so obvious again to the layman that this is such an easy win for Donald Trump because Joe Biden isn't charismatic, he can't pull a room, et cetera, et cetera. He can't hold a room, et cetera, and Donald Trump can. I think that people were genuinely it was like this culmination of complete frustration. It was this idea that everything that we once we believed and we were told we are a basket of deplorables, da da da. Well, as crazy as it sounds, if we believe the election is rigged, here's a perfect example where it could be because Joe Biden wasn't like this one for one comparator to Donald Trump. And this emboldened, I think, a lot of Trump's base where they were like, this is why we this is precisely what we've always been thinking, which is the elections are rigged. They're in favor of candidates that are not hitting the mark because there's a larger order at place here. And it puts politicians like Trump, who calls that out, at risk, where they delegitimize him, they take the election away from him, et cetera, et cetera. So that frustration, came to a head on January 6th. Of course, I don't agree with like storming inside the Capitol and all that, but I think it was a very emblematic moment of the frustration that so many Americans have been having towards politics. And I don't know how you undo that frustration because Trump's base is very much like baked in. Like that base is not going away even after he steps down and doesn't run in 2028. The Democrats and the Republicans both will have to basically campaign for Trump's base. So I'd be curious to see like what happens with that. Okay, I talked for a lot there, folks. Sorry again. See what folks are saying. Lauren says, "Wait, are we on a podcast right now?" No, you're not. It's just the live stream, Lauren. Um, Harris is the only. Bell Best Gifts says Harris is the only one person qualified for the job. Mark G says Obama isn't the first black president. There has never been a black president. Interesting, Mark. I think, are you meaning African American president? Let me know. Jay Ramesh says even in the U.S., most Americans support it. Actually, might have missed that comment. What it was referring to, Jay Ramesh. Warren says it's all to allow illegal non-citizens to vote liberal. You know, that has been a recurring comment, Warren, from people on Instagram as well. I'd love for you to expand on that. You know, sorry, it's the lack of voter ID to allow illegal non-citizens to vote liberal. I think that's generally the sentiment. What do people think about that? Do you think that's why Democrats don't want voter ID? Sorry, folks, I'm kind of losing my voice, it seems. This is great. I think people are really enjoying this. Lauren says, one thing I love about this world is that people have different opinions and we should respect that. I love that, Lauren. That's such a great comment. Kev's Guide says they used to love Trump before he ran for office. That's right. During the Apprentice, they used to love Trump before they before he ran for office. That's right. Kev's Guide said, oh, sorry. Mark says to Kev's Guide, CBC removed Trump from the Home Alone movie. That's crazy. I know. Isn't that crazy? CBC here in Canada removed Donald Trump from the Home Alone movie. Isn't that so wild? I just don't understand. That is so, so wild. Nemnock. Oh, Nemnock, my great friend on TikTok who hates me. No, Nemnock, you don't hate me. You just don't like what I post. That's okay. Nemnock says, that's a great take on Trump if you ignore all the facts. Folks on Insta. By the way, if you are on Insta, definitely follow me on TikTok at Christopher Balkrin. I'm trying to hit 1,000 followers, and I'm almost there. Not really, but I need your support because once I do that, I could definitely do this behind my computer for everyone. Nemnock on TikTok absolutely has always been here, and he's not a fan of my opinions, but I like the fact that Nemnock does come back and checks out the live stream. So thanks for that, Nemnock. Okay, let me make sure I am following everything. Usman says, I'd love to talk voter ID with you. Usman, I'd love that. My voice is cracking and I don't know how much longer I'll continue, but let's find a time, DM me, and we will schedule a time where we can chat about that in greater detail. Maybe make it into a live stream with you on it. Mark G says Obama is of mixed race, and that's not hate. The hate comes from not being white enough. Interesting. Let me see. Nemnock says non-citizens can't vote. Folks, I'd love to know what you think. Is that right? Again, I haven't looked into that, so can someone correct me? Correct Nemnock if he's wrong. Pepe's Rice Box, get a midnight snack. That's right, Pepe's Rice Box. I do need a midnight snack. Warren says, need ID to get a bank account, mortgage, or buy a car, but not to vote for country leadership. Very interesting. I'm seeing some comments back and forth with folks. Lauren says, you need to start a podcast or something because you have the charisma for it. Lauren, definitely check out my podcast, Open Minds with Christopher Balkrin. Definitely subscribe. It's on everywhere you stream music, Open Minds with Christopher Balkrin. I'm actually releasing a new episode this week, so you'll really enjoy that, I think. Lauren, I love that. We don't have the same opinions, however, I respect you, so you gotta follow. I love that. That's what we need here, man. We need more of that. Yeah. Okay, so let us talk about. Okay, Jay Ramesh says non-citizens can't vote in most states. You do also need voter ID. Okay, so let's talk about that, folks. This is my learning as well. I don't know this for a fact, so I just want to make sure that we're all learning together. If you're not a citizen of the United States, you cannot vote in the election. Let's just make sure that that's just like everyone understands, so we can put to bed and put to rest the idea that you know um, conservatives are saying, "Oh, Democrats, liberals don't want voter ID because illegals will vote for Democrats." Okay, so if that is the fact, and while people are debating that, I am just going to Google that myself. Do you need to be a US citizen to register to vote? Wow, that's actually a very common question. Let's see what it says. Um, who can and cannot vote? USA.gov. You can vote in US federal, state, and local elections if you are a US citizen. However, some areas allow non citizens to vote in local elections only. Okay, so this includes US citizens living outside the US, US citizens who were born abroad and never lived in the US, um, dual citizens living in the US or abroad. Um, okay, so folks, um, you must be a US citizen, and some areas actually allow non-citizens to vote in local elections only. Yeah, I agree, Warren. With no ID, how can they prove citizenship? That's true. That's a good question. With no ID, how can they prove citizenship? Okay, so let's get into this voter right, guys. I'm learning as you're all learning. Why is this not required? Now, I heard what Usman said earlier. Usman, you said something. Let me scroll up. Voter ID laws. This is Usman says voter ID laws are racist in both design and implementation in the US. Okay. Um, can someone I hate to do this, but can someone wow, I'm getting reminders on my phone to like wind down because it's getting late and everyone's got work tomorrow. But let me just see quickly. Who's required? Why is it not required? I was Googling something and then something ran. Wikipedia. I love this. Okay. Um, okay. So there are states like California where there is no ID required to vote. That also goes for Nevada, which is neighboring to it. And there's other states as well. Like I believe, isn't New York State as well? Um, this is so wild. Um, okay. So there's history. Da, da, da. What's okay? So what's the controversy? Let's see. Uh, okay, so here we go. Studies and analysis. This is all on Wikipedia, guys, because I haven't done a deeper dive. So let me just forgive me if you disagree. Okay, so according to Harvard Law Report, getting documentation, possible travel, and wait times are significant, particularly for minority groups and low-income voters. Um, the cost associated with obtaining a card far exceeds the 150 poll tax. Um, Costs are also borne by Get Out the Vote not-for-profits who must spend time and money trying. What? This is so weird. Low-income people, people of color, and younger voters are less likely to have ID, while transgender people are less likely to have ID that is up to date. Okay. Um, Republican-run states as of 2023 are making it harder for young people to vote by restricting their use of student IDs, among other efforts. According to a report from University of Maryland, 18 to 29-year-olds were the least likely to have the required form for photo ID. Okay, so I'm just going to ask an honest question. In Canada, all of this is required, and I don't remember there being, like, a robust debate in Canada about low-income families, not getting access to identification for voting purposes. So that's one, and by the way, most of the developed world, in fact, I think all of the developed world requires voter ID, but yet in the US, it's this big debate. Like, can someone help me understand that? The second point to that is, and I know this is more cynical, but do you think that like okay, and I don't mean to be cynical, right? I really don't. But do you think that this is also we're concerned about groups who also have low voter turnout? Like I could be wrong and I probably am, but like do young people vote like in as high numbers as other groups? I don't think they do. Voter turnout probably differs, but I think for low income families and for young people, like voter turnout is really low. So, anyways, I don't know. I just find it odd that again the US is the only country that has this issue with voter ID. But I'm just gonna keep scrolling through the stuff here. Um Ziang says, I also live in Canada. We don't have this issue either. That's right. Oh man, people are giving me some kudos. Thank you for that. Thanks for that, folks. I appreciate that. Usman says, sorry, Usman, I missed some of your comments. Let me just scroll back up. Do. Okay, there seems to be a lot of debates beyond that people are going on. Um, um, Warren says, "When are you live next?" Warren, I'm gonna try my best to be back here tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. So, folks, I'm really trying to make this like a nightly thing, 8:30 p.m. EST for about an hour, half an hour to an hour. But these topics, as you can see, are totally like really intense. So I love doing this. I just want to make sure that we're all being like super respectful in the comments. Um, Lauren says it confuses me. I was born in the UK, but I can't get a US passport. Um, Kev's Guide, I'd love to have you on. I don't think I have the opportunity to right now because I'm gonna shut down soon, but I just wanna make sure that I'm responding to everyone. Um, my mom's Irish. Okay. Um, Warren says only Republican states require ID, Democratic states don't. The race card is a way of controlling people. Um, Usman says you have no idea how it is. Chris, please do Guzman says, Chris, please do reconsider having a quick convo about this. It'll be like 5 minutes to cover this topic. Great, Usman. You know what? Let's plan it out because I don't want to have a quick 5 minute topic on it. I'd rather for us really have a full on conversation. Um, in the UK, it was only open a couple years ago that you need photo ID to vote. Thanks, Katya, for the heart. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you. Jay Ramesh says, even in most US states, voter ID is required. Yeah, I just don't understand like why some states require it and others don't. But again, I don't know enough. Um, but it may take some years. Just getting caught up, folks. Want to make sure. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Thanks, Jay Ramesh, for being patient. Um, example of how it's racist is the fact that officials more often require ID of minorities than YT. Oh, sorry. Uh, Then racist design example is Texas, for example, allows gun licenses but no student IDs. I think I see what you're saying. Um, example of how it's racist is the fact that officials more often require ID of my. I see. So Usman is saying that officials more often require ID of minorities um, in Texas. Racist design example is Texas, for example, allows gun licenses but no student IDs. Okay, but here's a question, Usman. Like, why don't we just use like driver's licenses like we do up here? I don't get it. Um, man, some of these comments. Yes, I agree. Um, okay, yeah, this is a very important conversation, folks. I know it's getting pretty like heated in the comments, but I just want to make sure that we talk about this more openly. Voter ID, voter registration is a big topic. I don't think that like it can be solved on one live stream, but I will say that again, as a Canadian who has been, just not forced, but just a requirement. You walk in with your driver's license, photo identification, etc., passport, whatever, and you vote. and it's just so common, and it's common here, it's common in Europe. I don't think there's any other developed nation that doesn't require a voter ID. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong. I think America is the only country, and I think that's what's so mystifying to this. Like, I think most people actually would agree with voter ID, and I do think that this could be, I hate to say, a more fringe idea, but judging by the research that the Wikipedia page that I found, I think that more needs to be discussed about this because I'm so confused and perplexed as to why are why is it so um why is it such a movement for poor people, minorities to not require voter ID? Usman, I take your point. Driver's licenses are less proportionally held by poor people, but Canada and the European nations would probably have the same level of poverty or poor people or low income people who don't have access to vehicles, don't have voter ID. Here in Ontario, you don't have to have your vote. You don't have to have driver's license as a form of identification. The government does have photo identification that you could just apply for, which is specifically for those that don't drive. And so I'm so confused and perplexed by voter ID in the United States. I don't I'm very skeptical about the argument that it disproportionately impacts poor people, because there must be some way of identification, and everyone must have. I mean, if you are homeless and you don't have a fixed address, I get that. That is a very extreme perspective to take, because I bet homeless people are not voting. You know what I mean? Like, so that's where I think a lot of moderates are lost on the kind of push for for a lack of voter ID. But anyways, I would love to know what you all think. More in the comments below. I know I've been like live for a very long time, so I'm gonna start shutting this down soon. Um, but I just want to say, I know there's a lot of comments coming in. Like, there's so many comments. I should really not be live on many different platforms. I feel like there's too many comments everywhere. But anyways, folks, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm losing my voice. It's 9:45 at night. I definitely want to do this on a regular basis. So if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube, Open Minds, subscribe to my Instagram at Open Minds Pod. And if you haven't already, subscribe to me on TikTok at Christopher Balkaran, Balkaran. Folks, this was a great conversation. I'm interested to know more about what all of you think about voter ID and specifically about Elon Musk and his support for Donald Trump. Ziang, I know you said you're going to send me a DM. I'd love to keep the conversation going. Folks, if you want to be on the live stream, send me a DM. We're clearly developing a community here, and there's already like at least 5 or 6 people who are coming back every single time, and I think that is showing that this is starting to pick up and people want these types of conversation. Respectful, Mark, you summed it up best right there. Have a great evening and a good week. Remember, respectful conversation is the goal. Mark, I couldn't agree any more with you, and I think that we need to just maintain that in the comment section, in our comments with each other. I don't want TikTok and I don't want these places to be an extension of the extreme thinking. I want this to be a place where we can debate and discuss rationally, effectively, respectfully. Thanks everyone for this wonderful live stream. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thanks again, and I will catch you in the next one, everyone. Take care.